of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to order the October 19th, 2023 Village Board meeting. 3, roll call shows all trustees are present, officials and staff are present. Our attorney is also here. Number 4, agenda changes. We will move E before A. Are there any others? Or are we good? Okay, number 5, consent agenda. A, October 5th, 2023, regular board meeting minutes. B, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. Are there any questions? If not, I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. Roll call. Grace?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
Motion carried. 6, we will open the public hearing. A, Douglas Street Special Assessment. If anyone wishes to speak, please state your name and address for the minute taker. Nathan, will you start us off?
Yeah, so I'll just inform you guys, typically what happens is we get a quote for a project. That full quote is assessed in the preliminary special assessment to the homes. That doesn't mean that's what it's going to be at the end. That gets determined by the board what they want to present. Well, the cost of the project, and when the cost of the projects are finalized, then the board decides what they want to necessarily put in towards reducing down those amounts, if any. The years can also change for the amount of payback time. We can extend it out to the maximum, I think, of 10 years. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
All right. Well, I'm the homeowner, and my entire property doesn't completely sit in the city of Hortonville. My driveway does. Majority of my land is, well, it was probably 50-50, Hortonia and Hortonville, but I am labeled city. I've only been there for 4 years. My husband passed away. I moved to a small town. So my issue is I'm a one income. I'm the only house technically on that road. So I'm not sure why I need to pretty much have this road work. I wanted a culvert in the approach to my road, which was all fucked up because of, I mean, the culvert's almost level with the yard. No, very little. I have water that comes down from the nail factory. The culvert's not deep enough to take care, and underneath my driveway, it's all bent up. There's not even a full round pipe underneath my driveway, and it's sinking. So we're bottoming out on our cars with all this riffraff happening. I just don't know why the personal, I mean, all the houses that go down that road are mostly Hortonia. I'm the only house. The other property across the street is land. They have a house on the other street. There's no approach really for them to get in. So my mailbox. So I feel like I'm carrying the heavy load of this. I'm not sure. I don't even make $20 an hour. I work at Quick Trip, and I don't know where I'm supposed to come up with this extra money. So that's all I got. Thank you. Do you want to say anything? Come on. So this is my son.
Yeah, I also live at the residence.
State your name, honey.
My name's Ethan.
Ethan Weber.
Yeah, like she said, the water comes into our first half of our lawn, which is Hortonville. I would say the second half after our driveway is pretty much Hortonia. We have a pretty steep incline where the pipe is, and then everything that is around the pipe is completely sinking. So, I mean, I drive an Audi, and I gotta three-wheel it over the top of it or take the grass when it's not wet. I guess, when we called to have it initially looked at by the city, we didn't think that the road was gonna be done as well. We just wanted the water problem taken care of. I understand why you guys wanna do it. I work for the city of Appleton, totally get it. But I guess as my mom, you know, just being the primary income and tax holder for that property, that's a lot for her to take in for that street to get done. And I think that street should have been carried out a long time ago. So that's all I have to say. Thank you guys.
So are they actually in Hortonville, 420?
They're 100, so you guys are 100% in the village of Hortonville.
Yep.
The sign is not in the right spot,
Okay.
and that's why,
Yeah, I spoke to Hortonville about that. They're looking at where the sign is.
so.
Okay.
So, but you understand the,
So it goes all the way down to the very edge of my property?
yeah, where you, well,
Like the
where you can
telephone
see
pole.
where the road has been redone, because there's a section where the road is starting to fall apart. You can probably see that where
Yep.
the water is causing the damage on the
Yep.
sides. And then there's a section where the road's been redone.
Yep.
And where that ends, that's the end of Hortonville.
Yep.
Right, so the sign is completely in the wrong spot, right? Years ago that was done, and just so you're aware, this is our second time through this. The first estimate that we had was like $52,000 to get that done. And we pulled that out of the contract and looked for an alternative way to take care of this piece of roadway, and reduced it already by $20-some thousand, $30,000. That doesn't mean that it's done. It just means that we're actively looking at it. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm her mom, Shirley Boster. Hasn't worked out too. Anyway, I'm concerned about the money end of it because I think before any digging or whatever the heck you do to get this project started, she should have a dollar amount that she knows what her possibilities are and what the numbers are gonna be. I'm a numbers person. So we can figure out financially how this girl on $20 an hour or less is gonna afford it. So if there's any way numbers can be sent to us, even if they're estimate, as you're trying to figure this all out, is it this year? Is it next year? When is it gonna be on the taxes? How many years do we spread it out? Is there gonna be an interest? We don't know any of that. I've never had to deal with it. I'd like to know that she has a chance to know, even if it's, like I said, an estimate to get to her before this digger goes in and starts making all this, so we can figure some of this out.
Did you guys get the preliminary engineering report?
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, and then on the back it shows obviously what the preliminary number is.
Yep.
There is interest usually assigned as well, and that's usually 0.5% over the rate that you get from the bank. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the route where the board will end up going. And typically they don't have that answer on what they want to do until basically after it's done. But
That's what I'm afraid of.
It's still over 25,000 for me.
currently it's at 16, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna stay at that amount.
Yeah.
She's at 19.
She's at 20.
She's at
She-
19.
oh, she's at-
She's at 19
Yeah.
because of the culvert.
Yep, so,
I'm fine, I don't have a problem with the culvert, that's why
right.
we notified you. It was about the culvert and, you know, and the did it in the driveway. See, you opened up a whole can of gas.
It's not his fault. The road, and you can ask if he works on the roads in Appleton. You can
Yeah.
you can look at the road and see that it's starting to erode away from the sides, and that's
Well, yeah,
the water's not being
And the
diverted properly.
ground's getting pretty bad in that
Yeah.
road too. so.
And, yeah.
So is that being done this year? Is it being done next year? We're a couple months here from taxes being sent to the house.
So you can answer on the timeline, I can talk to you about the taxes on that.
It's supposed to be done this year. I was hoping to meet with the county about it yesterday while I was at their building, but the person in charge of it wasn't there. So I put another call into him today to just find out what the scheduled timeline is. If you guys, I can stick around after, get some contact information for you, and I can let you know as soon as I find out what's being done.
The more information we can get, the better,
You bet.
bottom line, because it's not free. Thank you. Do you have any more?
So if we're doing that soon, it would not go on this year's taxes, would it?
It can't. At this
Yeah.
point in time, we basically, so when it's done, we'd get the bill, and we'd have to send out a letter to the residents asking them if they wanted to pay it all up front or pay it, and this is after
After
we
we
have-
discuss it,
After
figure
we
we go
discuss, and then you
coordinate.
guys come up with an actual final amount. So once that's done, then we send a letter to the homeowners. They have 30 days to reply back what they want to do, if they want to apply to their taxes or if they want to pay it up front.
There's simply not enough time in this year to do that.
Right, so, and we have to have all of our stuff in by November 15th for the county to send them out for taxes. So at this point in time, it wouldn't be assessed until next year's taxes.
I just want to share, and I want to say this carefully, but it's been the concept of a wheel tax or a transportation fee has been discussed. It doesn't exist in the village, but if that went to the board and got voted on, that is something that would, I want to speak carefully, it could offset that cost. That doesn't exist, but that is something that was talked about for these special assessment situations.
It's a wheel tax?
Yes.
No. We had that in Appleton.
It helps a lot coming from somebody that works for Appleton. I'm in the street department. And the roads have been a lot better this year with the funds from that, from what we can do.
So you're saying that would be a good thing in this town?
I think it would help out with decisions on what you guys can do with the roads for sure.
Here you
Our
go.
numbers, our population
Population's
numbers
much
are
smaller.
very, very different than
No,
Appleton,
I completely get it. but-
right? And our expenses are different proportionally than what theirs are. So it would have a significantly different level of impact here.
Right.
It's probably significantly smaller, like,
I don't
It
think
would
it's in this
offset
one.
your costs.
Right.
Very little.
yeah.
There would be something, but it has to be distributed across all things, so there'd be an effect, yes.
So we do look at each of the special assessments independently. Yours is unique, having only 2 people. But we don't typically determine what the final amount that is going to be assessed is until we actually get a bill. Because all of these numbers are just estimates until we get a bill.
Yeah, well, he won't be living less than primary. Maybe another year. Then it'll really be us all.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, we will now close the public hearing. Number 7, pre-registered citizens to be heard.
Who's the 3 that spoke? Do you want to speak now again?
Okay. Then we will move to 8, committee reports. 8, Public Works Committee. Shauna?
We had a meeting on October 12th, so last week this time. We had 2 items on the agenda. One was getting a presentation from McMahon regarding the phosphorus level changes and what we would need to do to plan an update for meeting those guidelines. They presented a few alternatives, and it was really just an informational planning presentation so that we can continue moving forward with meeting those guidelines. And then the second was regarding a public works, the public works vehicles. They have a truck that is doesn't go in reverse, and that they wanted to make it known that they were going to be presenting options and looking at options for replacing that vehicle for one that functions. And that was it.
Did I hear it correctly? It won't go in reverse, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure you heard correctly. Okay, thank you.
I said that's some creative parking that had to happen in order to make sure you
Plan
could get
ahead.
out.
Plan ahead.
It's an old vehicle.
There's not much left of the
It's a
box
very
either.
old vehicle.
Pretty rusted through.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
It's the Ranger.
We will move to number 9, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. 10, new business. We will move to E, discussion on Douglas Street special assessments.
This is just if you guys want to discuss anything with it.
I think you kind of have to wait, find out what you hear from
What the
county.
final costs are.
Cost and timeline.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. We will move to A, discussion and possible action on quote from Crane Engineering.
So this is the handout that I gave you to make it into the packet, but basically a couple months ago, we came in front of the board with a effluent pump that needed to be replaced, which was approved and done, but when Crane Engineering was in there replacing the pump, they noticed some deficiencies in and around that pump and others on it, so this is a quote to take care of those as well. Being over $5,000, it came up in front of the board.
Any questions for Aaron? Otherwise, we would need a motion.
This stuff's already done.
No. It's recommended that it needs to get done. When they replaced the pump, they noticed this stuff that was broken too.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote for Crane Engineering in the amount of $6,888.
I'll second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on public works pusher quotes.
So this came from the board at the last meeting, and we went back and I'll admit had a hard time trying to find something comparable to get some additional quotes for. We were able to find one up in Minnesota, and we got 2 more quotes from them for something similar. So between basically the 5 different pushers that are listed, I think I would still recommend that the ProTech Fusion for $11,700 would be our best fit for our needs.
And they're local, they're in Appleton as opposed to Minnesota.
Right,
Right.
and you can see the,
The other one's used and it's cost more than
Yeah.
the new one.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
so I think it is a pretty good price for that.
Well, thank you for the time to go through it, because it's not something that we, have the background to make a reasonable comparison. If we only have those numbers, which is why, I asked if you do that.
You bet.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote for Casper's truck equipment in the amount of $11,719.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. C, discussion and possible action on resolution R-22-23, amending personnel manual.
So this would just basically, last year we had changed our clothing allowance for the for the directors that don't have a clothing allowance. They would get $100 a year for embroidered clothing with the village's logo on it. And at this point, we wanted to make that available to all full-time, or to all staff that don't have clothing allowances, basically. So this would be about a $500 increase.
And the idea is that they're going to go to training or something, some public function.
Sometimes it's public functions out in the community, sometimes it's trainings, sometimes it's just work at the village hall here, they wear them. It's kind of a morale booster too, I guess. I think they kind of like getting their clothes.
I'd like one.
Yeah,
I mean, we go to public stuff, and get our pictures taken.
you guys could do that.
I mean, I don't think we, as board members, need $100 budget every year, but
No, we could add it
I
into
think
your
a-
budget line item.
I think a single budget line item for the entire board is like to be able to give them one shirt for, like when Tony Evers comes and has something and you say, well, board members, if you want to go, I think that would be a reasonable thing to add.
I think even when we have meetings like the comp plan the other night,
Yes.
and board members are there, I think it's nice that people know we're board members, you know. I mean,
Well, it
even
might
if
make
it
them,
was-
it might make them approach you more because about something else if they can see that you're wearing.
right, because a lot of people don't know who their board members are. They really don't.
Truck doesn't swing.
Actually, kind of does.
I'm just saying, you know,
What's
I don't
the
think
average-
we need a
What's the average cost
budget.
on
I
a
think
shirt?
one single
Just
budget.
add it
line
in the
item.
budget item.
Yeah, to do like one shirt or something like that would be.
Yeah, one
Would be
shirt.
something that's not excessive and easy to do. But other than that, I don't
Yeah, I
have a
don't think
problem with it.
for like a board, I don't know if $100 is even necessary, it would seem more like 50. I mean,
Right.
the average cost of one.
I'll just
Sure.
add it into your supplies and then you guys can just order it off the website.
Sure. Otherwise, I think the rest of it's pretty good.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve R-22-23.
I'll second that one.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. D, discussion and possible action on Alonzo Park fundraising.
So I met with a person who, for the benefactor amount, which was 75,000. Their question, they had a few questions. The main one was whether or not that we would, if they donated, that they would be exclusive, so that they wouldn't have anyone from their industry else be part of that donation.
To Alonzo Park in general?
No, just to this fundraising campaign for the splash pad and playground.
For the naming, right?
Right. They don't want to donate $75,000 and then have a competitor donate $5,000 and still get their
And
name.
their name on there.
Right.
But we're a smaller community where there's some overlap of certain types of industry. Yeah.
I get it. I'm just saying that's what was asked. Yeah.
Which industry? Does it get say that?
I don't know if you, I don't think
I
it'd be
don't
appropriate
think
for you
it
to
would
say.
be,
I
I
can
don't think it
guess.
would hurt too much at this point from the village's standpoint, for our industries here.
So, but we were talking, correct me if I'm wrong, the naming rights for the splash pad would be a large, it's not gonna, and the other ones would be just a small,
It'd be smaller,
Right.
right?
less noticeable.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's not like any of them are really gonna be usable from like the street or anything like that,
Okay.
so.
But the splash pad would be named after that particular business, right?
Correct. Well, they
Or
would.
by them.
By them,
By
yeah.
them. They would name
Yeah,
it.
they would name it, so, and it would be known in the village as that particular splash pad.
What was our fundraising goal for the splash pad?
200,000.
And they're 75.
I'm hesitant to do that, just, I mean, I don't want to set a precedent of, but now if I'm a $5,000 donor, you know, and somebody is gonna be a $500 donor, but they're the same industry, I mean, where do you set that limit?
At the benefactor amount, that's 75 is the only one that I would do it for. If you're having someone who's gonna be doing your majority of your fundraising,
But what if we have somebody else who wants to do 75? I don't wanna say, no, you can't. Nope, we're not, we can't take your money for that because.
well, they still could, it's just, I mean, that's kinda how we had it set up when we were doing it. I mean, if you want, we can increase it, but what do you sell it for then? Because
What
there's
if you
only
got
one.
two people that
That's what I'm saying, and they're in the same
give
industry.
75? Then
I think for
how
that
do you name
extra
it?
amount of exclusivity,
That's, That's something that we probably should have discussed prior to tonight and when we were discussing the fundraising levels. Because at that meeting, we discussed having one person for the 75 level, and then the rest were between 10 and plus. They can still give 75 after the fact, but I doubt they're going to. If you wanted to raise it higher, we could, but
So they want an extra layer of exclusivity.
Yes.
So then what's that worth? And I'm
I
not saying
think
it's
in
not
their
worth
eyes, it's
75,
in
I'm
their
just
eyes,
saying,
it's
you know,
First come, first serve.
right.
you need to turn down.
No matter what you put on for, I mean, you could be like Greenville and do $7 million, and someone could come in with 8, because that's what they're selling their parking for. So, I mean, it just,
No, there's $8 million people. I'm
So we're
even
gonna
friends with
have
them.
We're gonna have an auction
well,
The highest
right,
bidder
I mean, I
gets it?
guess at some point you gotta have a max amount, and that's kind of what we came up, what we had. I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't increase it still, I mean, if you guys want.
That's
But
a lot of money.
I figured it's probably hard for a business to, most businesses aren't gonna be able to give 75,000
Yeah.
right away.
I don't think you're gonna have a lot.
Well, if
Even
it's a-
5,000 is gonna probably,
Yeah.
What if it's a private person?
Who do you know?
Well,
I'm
there's also gonna be
serious.
other
What
things
if
that we
it's a
have to
private
fundraise.
there's
person,
other,
not a
yeah,
business?
we have other things that they can,
I think,
Yeah.
is there
Donate.
maybe, could we set a guideline of, so, all right, you have that exclusive naming, but to try not to exclude other potential donors, how do you do that? So I'm just gonna use, let's say it's a grocery store. I'm just gonna say grocery store. And there's a second grocery store. One gets the naming rights and another one wants to donate, but it's not necessarily a naming right, it's that their name is recognized. We talked about having something smaller. Is it that they don't want anyone in that same industry to even be on a plaque of other names? That's what it is.
So if you're Century Gilbert's, you
I-
probably don't want Costco on there.
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like your competitor is getting their name on the sign, getting the same type of recognition you're getting the 75,000. Yes, you get the naming right.
Did we say the naming rights had to get approval, obviously, before?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the board, yeah.
yeah.
Just so we don't get any weird.
Right, yeah, I get it.
I mean, I guess maybe my expectations are off, but I don't expect there to be a line of $75,000 donors.
Well,
No.
could we
And,
do-
and I definitely don't expect that line to exceed the number of new items that we're having in the parks that can be named or.
Well, everything can be named.
Yes, I mean,
But I think
that,
we
but-
change, I think
but I
the
mean-
idea is anything else is the total cost. So like, the cost of, let's say, fishing pier, $30,000. Someone wants to donate $30,000. Then we'll put the fishing pier in and name it after them.
Yeah.
And leave it as that.
Yeah.
So
So,
until we have funds to actually maybe go and do something,
so.
it's gonna be the cost of the item.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'm okay with that. I mean, we sat down, we came up with a $75,000 number, and somebody said, okay, that's good. So, I'm okay with that.
They didn't necessarily say that.
But let's clarify.
Consider-
I would probably say they're very likely to go for it.
Let's clarify though, because this is just phase
One.
one out of other phases. So let's say we had talked about putting up, what's the name?
Pavilion.
Pavilion.
Like a
Yeah,
pavilion.
That's what I'm saying.
Or
too.
we talked about putting up like a
That-
The amphitheater.
amphitheater, thank you.
They know
Shauna.
that that's separate.
So that's separate. So let's say they have the exclusivity of, I'm the only
Splash
industry,
pad.
we would have to be that specific for just the splash pad project. But when it comes time for the pavilion and amphitheater,
Yeah.
that's completely off the board. This
I-
is brand new.
They were told that at the time.
That's what I was
We would have to
saying.
be very clear with that and contractual, because I would hate for us to be trying to put up an amphitheater and then we get a $75,000 donor from someone who's a very similar industry, and that first one saying, you said you wouldn't.
No, we'd make sure that that doesn't happen, 'cause
Okay.
that's too
I get
short-sighted.
it, but
Yeah.
that could be, I would never want anyone to go into it with the impression that they've got for
They
that
own the
whole
park now.
Right.
The whole
They own the
park,
park.
you know, because there's,
get it,
we have
yeah.
different phases and we have different bigger projects
They
coming
can
up in
name
that
their
park.
last name Alonzo and that's their park.
Is this gonna be mentioned in the Village Voice at some point?
The fundraising,
Yeah.
yeah, probably January one. Yeah,
I don't know how many folks know about
none that I know of.
it. So maybe in January.
There's, well, actually, I shouldn't say none. I've talked to the Lions Club and then a few businesses, and that's about it so far. Because
When you mentioned it at the senior,
the Senior Autumn Fest,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but
I
We
don't know.
need some preliminary drawings and pictures and stuff.
right. So that's kind of why I've been waiting, because it's hard to sell people on
Something they can't see.
a right. So
Yeah. My concern is that it mirrors Julie's, is that as long as it's detailed and spelled out well, that it's only, it only applies to the splash pad and nothing else, I'm okay with it. That's what we came up with.
Do we have different names for, I mean, we've got like phase one, we call it phase one, phase two, do we have maybe different names that could be more specific to each of these projects? Would that be beneficial just to make those lines in the sand a little more clear with potential donors?
I would just say it by item, because
I don't.
even the phases, I mean, we're not even doing full phase one,
No.
because phase one included the pavilion as well, but that was 3 million, and we only got a $500,000 from the state, so.
When it comes to the 75,000, let's just pretend for sake of argument, 75,000, we have two $75,000 donors, right? And they both want to go on phase one splash pad. But that technically gives both of them naming rights. I mean, right? So do we need to add something that in the, I mean, sell this thing in the newsletter that it's like first come, the first donor to reach this level has naming rights? Because otherwise you've got two people that qualify.
Right. It's gonna be, yeah. it'll
But
be
we need
spelled
to,
out.
I think, to note that and say, you know,
Yeah.
the first, whatever,
It's first come, first served for it.
Yeah.
and-
maybe not use that word, but like
No.
the
Yeah.
initial
Yeah.
donor meeting this level for this phase gets naming
Like,
rights.
I'm so sorry, we can't take your check this time around, but
Yeah.
we'd sure love it for this
And that's-
pavilion
yes.
amphitheater.
If that
Yeah.
75,000
Yeah.
burned a
Just
hole in
hold
their
on to
pocket,
that
we'll
for
find
just-
something.
No, agreed. Hold on. You can own this
something
tree if you want.
I'm going to your pen there for just a second there. I just think that, and we're assuming that there's all these donors out there. And
I just don't want to, I want to cover
understand.
ourselves if
No.
something happens.
And I understand why they want that exclusivity. I get it. Totally get it. I just would hate now understanding that that would just be just specific to the splash pad, but not the pavilion, not amphitheater, or not fishing pier, or bridge, or anything like that, or boardwalk. Then that to me makes me feel a little more at ease on it. But I still think we would have to have something pretty clear written up with that contract.
Yeah, that's, I'd have the attorney do it.
Yeah.
So,
Very, more work for you. Crystal clear.
So are we making a motion on any of this, or are you gonna present something and then we will decide? Or do you want-
I mean, if you guys wanted to make a motion on the exclusivity, I mean, yeah.
I feel like we need to change the wording or prepare the wording for the next, before we make that, for me personally.
Yeah.
I think that we should have, we had the original document we had up here, I think that we should finalize that wording to include all the things we just discussed that allows.
Okay.
Because if it's good for one, it needs to kind of be
Yeah.
good for all, right?
Right, I mean, are you guys good with that in general?
I
And
personally,
then
I'm
we
okay with the
can-
exclusivity, but I
Right.
really feel that we need to add the verbiage in there
Right, I mean, we don't have a single contract or a
for
single
anybody, yeah.
pamphlet, really.
Nothing.
It's just basically the summarized bullet points that I had for you guys.
But if we're gonna publish this, I
Right.
think we need to finalize that verbiage and,
Right, but that probably won't come for a few months until we get preliminary designs.
so in my opinion, I am okay with
telling them the thing, but I think that we need to validate, that's my,
Yeah, and
I think we need to
they-
validate the documentation and what we're gonna post.
They also need to define what their industry is,
Yeah.
specific. Because we might see it as this particular, but they already know what their competitor is, and they need to define what
They should
their,
define who that is.
yeah, they need to define what their industry is.
Otherwise, you guys can leave it as you guys are open to it, and then wait until you get the people that
Maybe
are,
we do that.
and then you guys can decide from there, rather than making it, because if you just say blanket yes, as long as, I mean, you still need to decide on what, come to an agreement with that entity on,
Well, we need to approve what their industry is. We need
well,
to
right, and that's why I
approve
think maybe waiting until,
who they think their local competitors are.
right, and maybe it's
Is
just,
local Hortonville, Greenville, is local just Hortonville? Hortonia?
Within the village limits, yeah, what is it?
So you just want a head nod tonight?
I mean, if you guys feel comfortable potentially having it exclusive, depending on what you guys come up with, if you guys are in agreement with that, depending on what they consider their industry or whatnot, then I'll just let them know that and say that it's gonna be between, you know, you guys gotta come up with a list for us of what that would mean. And basically, I would talk to you guys on it.
Yeah, I would tell them that it's something we would definitely consider, but we need to have something, there's definite guidelines that need to be discussed and solidified.
Right.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Then we will move to F. Any other miscellaneous topics for future discussions? Anything? Okay, we'll go to 11, report of village officials. Clerk Treasurer Jane.
My report was in the packet, and then I also included the third quarter financials.
Thank you.
Yep, and the investment should be in there as well. The two CDs that we had, those expired, we closed them out. Sent off the money to Ellers to reinvest at a higher rate. The other one we put back into the village's money market where we were getting a higher rate than the CD. If the CDs go higher, we will put some more money in CDs.
Just as a general question, I mean, each category or each account you have listed where they are as a percentage, but what is the overall as a percentage? Do you have that?
No. Like percentage wise?
Yeah, like what is our total year to date? So you have it by each account, right? We've used 80% of our budget, or we've used 60% of our budget. Do we know where we're at year to date for as in whole?
No, I didn't include that in here.
I'd be curious. Yeah, if I had it. No.
Is that something we can pull out of the?
Is it in Excel now? Is this Excel?
It is, but it's pulled from our accounting software.
Yeah. it's
Right,
just
but all you
maybe
have to
for
do is
the-
take a total of year to
In my
date, a total of the
viewpoint,
budget
we'll
and
have that in
divide.
We can just do it on the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah,
and we'll-
Okay, okay.
Is it in Excel right there? Yeah, no thanks.
Any other questions for Jane?
Little paper from that.
Okay, we'll move to B, Director of Public Works, Aaron.
My report's in the packet.
Do I bring this up to you, Nathan, Chris? We're talking about our highway opening soon. How are we announcing that to our residents? How are we announcing our four-way stop that's going to take place when the highway opens? I think people need warnings. I think they need information.
Mhm. We gave information in the Village Voice,
Yeah.
and the county will be putting up
The county will put it up?
notices for the four-way stops.
Okay,
And the other stuff, I mean, it's just opening up a road. I mean, I don't really know what kind of warning we're gonna do.
Because we don't even know what date. I
right.
mean, they have a date in their mind, but if that date, if they go past because of rain days and everything else, because they've had a lot of those,
And it looks like the next couple days are supposed to be all rain too.
Right.
So,
Still trying to figure out what happens closed.
I just wondered how we would inform people.
I just think that it's just gonna, like they did in Greenville, they had, that the stoplights were all of a sudden
The-
gonna
on the
start
8th,
working,
on Wednesday, they were
right?
gonna-
Yeah, so they post things out there, so I'm sure that they're gonna be posting something at the roundabout to let people know.
Okay,
But
so we
also-
just leave it to the state and
For the
county?
roundabout in the
Yep.
county, you should do the downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
No different than the internet outage the other day. Like, everybody felt that the village should know what was going on. The village had nothing to do with Spectrum. Whoever's in charge of the road opening, I think, should be in charge of that communication.
You mean their planned outage that they didn't tell anyone they planned?
Well, but I mean, I looked at the staff and I think if we put out some big announcement about the road opening and what if we're inaccurate on a date or what if we do something, then all the
Well-
questions are coming back to staff and they can't answer it. They've got to go to the state or the county, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
Chris is and you are in touch with them, so I mean, we wouldn't put out information that wasn't correct. We would have to get it from them to
Well,
do it.
right, it's just whether or not
So I
their
would still think we'd
information's
do
correct.
something on our own
But you-
Facebook page.
I guess, I know you guys were inundated with calls about the Spectrum stuff, weren't you? People were like,
I
the village
wasn't.
should know.
Yeah, you weren't.
I got called as a board member, Julie, when's the Spectrum coming on? I'm like, I don't know.
Call Spectrum.
Oh,
Tell them
because
sorry
apparently
for
cell
digging in my
service
yard.
worked, yeah, but I was kind of like the root person who would answer the questions, you know? And I followed the DOT, the state DOT on the Highway 15 on social media, and they have a webpage. The county as well. I don't generally look to the village.
Well, maybe if we just
State
post those
highway.
websites on there and just say, here's your point
There
of
you go.
contact.
Here's the links.
Here's the links to any questions you may have regarding.
Yeah, we do.
So, I had a question from a resident the other day. Do you know what the plan is for the roadway between like Allville Ford and up to, like, say, Lawson Park? After do you know what the counties, are they doing anything with that road,
No,
that stretch?
it's staying the way that it is.
What's that?
It's staying the way that it is.
Staying the way it is? Okay.
That's
Mhm.
in 2026 was
From
Talking
Greenville
between-
to,
From the roundabout, right?
Yeah,
to-
from Allville Ford, because that's all newer on there, but from the new section up until,
Get to-
say,
Schmitz.
like Schmitz.
So that's Hortonville.
No, yeah, my understanding is it's staying the way that it is.
Until we do our Main Street reconstruction.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking, the Main Street reconstruction
In
in
a couple of
2026.
years.
Right.
In 2026?
I think that's the last section.
Destination right now,
Yeah, they're supposed to start on the other side of town and kind of work their way, that would be the third part of the project right now, is the way they have it lined out.
Okay.
Yeah, is it next?
Because I know
to
the
the-
state, well, the state had to give funds to the county for the county to take over that section of road, so. I had a question about, the road starting to get a little bit beat up now with all the traffic and all the equipment, and somebody had a big complaint, and I had to explain to them it's not Hortonville, there's nothing we can do about it, but they wanted me to ask and see if we knew
Still
what
a
was
state
gonna happen.
highway. It's the state, right?
Yeah, no, it's county.
It's county.
County.
It's county.
JJ now.
Well, it will be county, but currently it's the state highway.
Right, but the 15, which is JJ, I mean, anything outside our borders,
There's
Yeah.
nothing to
it's
do.
Yeah.
gonna be on the county, and I don't know if they're planning on doing that when they do ours, or what.
Okay. Very insistent resident, so if and when you find out that out, please let me know. I'll pass that on.
Any other questions for Aaron? Okay, we'll go to C, Police Chief Chris.
And my report was in the packet also.
Any questions for Chris?
How's Yeehaw doing?
Of what?
How's Yeehaw doing?
As far as what?
Is he comfortable waiting? And
He really hasn't been informed. I mean, you guys tabled it, so I'm not really gonna tell him, no, that they're not going to allow you to have, now if he watches the video, he's gonna see it, but, I haven't told him, no, you're not gonna get your 80 hours because they decided to table it. I'm still on light duty, so he's still getting his 80 hours, pretty close, but not so much, but that could change in the next 2 weeks. He could be cut back to 64 hours weekly, And then at that point, then he'll determine whether or not he's gonna go look for another job.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, we'll go to D, Library Director, Ally.
I did not have a report in the packet, but just today, I was awarded a Hometown Hero Award by the Modern Woodmen of America Financial Group, I guess, on behalf of the library for raising readers. A lot of the library directors in the area and other library staff were highlighted for being an essential community service where we have really increased our efforts to bring people in and be that community space. So that was kind of cool.
Congratulations. That's very nice. Any questions for Ally? Okay, we'll go to E, Attorney, Michael.
This week I filed the raise order on that fire property on Barra Street. So we filed suit to have the court order the raising of it, or allowing us to go on there and raise it. So that'll take a little bit. We sent it out for it to be served. We do think the two property owners won't be an issue. There's a second mortgage company that also has partial title to it that's based out of Georgia. Based on their stuff, they seem a little sketchy, so we'll try to track them down and deal with it if we can't. So you'll get some news on that probably in a couple months, probably 2 or 3 months before we have any more word on that. So, but that's in the process.
Any questions for Michael? Okay, we'll go to F, Administrator, Nathan.
At the League of Wisconsin Municipalities annual meeting, annual conference. I went to that part of yesterday and part of today. Other than that, just was kind of working on budget and TID stuff. We had our TID meeting for our annual one on Tuesday. And that went well. Probably going to start working on CIP now and the other funds that we have as well. So our TID funds, debt, library, and water and sewer then too.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay, we'll go to G, Building Permit Report. There is none in the packet. 12, Communications and Miscellaneous Business. A, Black Otter Lake District News. Jane?
We just met last night. The harvester ran for about 10 days or so, and then now it has been taken out and put away for the winter. And
But still working.
but still working, all went well. So, yes, so hopefully that's all taken care of. Sean has got a pre-application sent into the DNR, reviewing slip lining culverts and sediment basins. He's still trying to get it done this year. Let's see, what else? Aaron is working on a watershed study. And I don't know if there's anything you want to share with that, but.
Putting together an RFP to go out for bid for a firm to do a watershed study to try to isolate phosphorus hotspots, sediment hotspots, not only in and around the lake, but within the whole drainage area to the lake.
So the sediment ponds that the state didn't they just do those by Alonzo there?
They did one, yeah.
They did one.
Basically created a new one for us.
And did they dig those deeper?
Yeah, than it was originally.
Do
So they
we
took
have
out,
to put warnings out? Don't we have warnings for people that that's deep? Don't we on the trail have warnings?
Yeah, there's warnings on the trail.
Yeah, so don't we have to in Alonzo also put those warning signs up?
How deep
That's
is it?
very
No.
deep and,
I mean, it's 3 or 4 feet deep, but I can get something like that too.
I just wondered with kids in the park and,
I mean, from my understanding, you don't have to.
Yeah,
It,
A 3 or 4 foot pond. I would, if there was a lawsuit, I would argue that's not in itself a danger, but it does not hurt to have a sign. It can only help, so.
Well, I just wondered if it was to our benefit.
And there's ones currently located along the, where?
There's a sign on the Whitewash Trail.
On the Whitewash?
With a, sediment, yeah,
Okay.
deep water, whatever.
I'll go take a look at it.
Okay.
And that'd probably be kind of put up in.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think that's because it's misleading when you look at it. And like it'd be just like something you could
Step
wade
in,
in, like
yeah.
something you
Yeah.
could wade into, but yeah, you wouldn't want to wade into it because it's sink over your head.
I just think for liability just to protect the village.
Yeah,
I
I think
didn't
there
know if
could
it
also
was-
be a recreational community argument on it. I mean, if there's a lake, you don't need to post that there's a lake, right? It's a little bit different than like a pool, so, but again, certainly having it doesn't hurt.
Okay. Any other questions for Jane? Okay, we'll go to B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News. Jim?
Okay, so we met on Wednesday, and I handed out a packet to everybody of the information that was provided. They had a budget proposal for 2024, which has a little bit of an increase, mostly due to building maintenance and HVAC and vehicle insurance. They are looking at replacing one of the primary trucks. They're looking around a 5-year timeline, but, and this has come up before, and it mentioned it, even back when Jack was on the board, it got mentioned, that it just keeps getting a little bit closer, and they keep reminding us. Cost for that truck is expected to be somewhere around $500,000. They're just putting together a committee to look at prices and options. The waiting list for a new truck is 4 to 5 years right now. So it's not like it's gonna be something they're gonna wait a couple more years to get started on. We are still gonna be able to hopefully apply for some grants, but a lot of those grants are specific about equipment that needs to be on them and things like that. Once we order it, then we would have to submit a change order to most likely Pierce or whoever else they order it from, in order to comply with whatever requirements the grant would be. So, but otherwise, yeah, we're looking at a pretty hefty expense, and then the value of the truck that they would be selling is nowhere even in the same ballpark. They also do, starting probably about a little bit less than a year ago, they started providing these fire run reports, and I thought they might be interesting to everybody. Every time we go to a meeting, I get one of these, and then we get an update as to where they are in respect to where they were the previous years. So if you see my notes that are up at the top, EMS is 286. EMS doesn't include theirs here, but they have 286 calls to date, which is pretty much on average with what they had last year. And then the fire department has 73, which is about the same as what they've had for the last 2 years. I also did request that, and you can see there's a spreadsheet here. That's what their budget looks like when they give it to me. EMS was not represented at the meeting, well, with anybody that had a budget anyway, so I did not receive their budget yet. They also have an equipment fund that is a separate fund that they pay for things out of, and that is partially funded by the contribution from the village and the municipality. So I requested that in the future they include accounting for that equipment fund as well, because they haven't been including that in our reports.
Do you have extra copies?
I only printed up. So I meant to get it to Jane, but I didn't get it to her on time, so I printed it up.
Okay.
Everybody's got one. I can get you another one if you like.
Any questions for Jim? Okay, we will go to C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News. It is in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association. Jane?
Nothing new at this time.
E, Senior Activities Committee. Pat?
We had our senior autumn fest last Tuesday, and we all felt it was a successful event. Got good feedback from the participants and the people that were in the booth fair. Thank you to Nathan and Aaron for presenting. They were two of the presenters. We also had Tom Ellenbecker from the school. And as far as the budget, it was pretty much a wash as far as donations and expenses. I think we came out about $188 a head. So we didn't cost the village anything, which is, we'll try harder next year to build up the reserve fund. We had a meeting this afternoon, reviewed the Autumn Fest, talked about a timeline for next year. This coming Tuesday, we're assembling Halloween bags on Tuesday up at Care Partners. Aaron and his staff are going to help get all the goodies up there and then pick them up when they're done. Potluck and movie on November 6th and coffee at 9 on the 13th. Coffee with a cop. We're going to try doing the second Tuesday of the month at 9 just to see if we can get more people out and maybe have a guest every time. So Chris is going to join us for that. And that's it.
Awesome. Any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to 13, comments and suggestions from citizens present. Nothing?
We're great.
Thank you for coming.
No, I appreciate you guys for at least listening to us.
Okay, we will then go to 14, motion to appoint minute taker for closed session. I will appoint Shauna. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in
Of course
favor?
you all will.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Okay, then 15, motion to go into closed session. And we will read them both, correct?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session with State Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session, specifically TID 6 potential development, and State Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the administrator review.
Second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. 16, we would need a 5-minute recess to clear the meeting room. Okay, 19, any action on matters discussed in closed session? We are going forward with what we, with the motion that was made. Do we have to express?
Yeah, you're actually supposed to make the motion in open session.
Okay,
So it's okay that you guys did one in closed, but it has to be made in open as well.
okay.
So,
Okay, Julie.
So then I would need a motion, once again.
I can do it again. I make a motion to increase the administrator wage to $85,000 and a one-time bonus of $5,000 in 2024.
Second.
Roll call, Grace?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. 20, I would need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
We are now adjourned at 8:42.
You have to record.